Velcro stuff.
Right.
Because, again, it's going to do a better job of holding on. The other thing is too, I know a lot of guys who break their floors in between coats with their multi-disc. Make sure you have to have, you know, the intermediate pad.
Yeah.
Those things get worn over time. They
yeah.
start to compress. So always have fresh ones. You know, because otherwise if they get too compressed, it's just like a hard plate. Just like when you're out just running the straight paper on there to take your scratches out, and you're taking too much stock off of your finish.
I used to use a lot of 220 screens, right? But I noticed too much scratchy parts.
Right.
Red Heat are probably the best screens out there, and they leave a very tight scratch pattern. But again, for me, screens are for raw flips.
Right. Yeah,
once you get your coat on, we don't need to be that aggressive anymore. Screens are made of metal.
Well, they're made of metal, right? And that's the point he's getting to, is if you get a box of screens that got jarred around in shipment,
yeah,
or they fell off the shelf in your van or your truck, and the abrasive falls off, right? So when you pull that screen out on the floor, some of that metal can fall off. And it's the darndest thing, but it'll get you every time, because I've had to fix it. You coat the floor, you put your water-based sealer down over the floor, you just screen, looks great. Come back in, you screen it down, or braid it down again, you put your next coat of water on it, it looks great. You get a phone call in 3 months. I got a brown spot showing up in my floor. You know what that is?
Yeah.
Rust.
It's
the metal that gets trapped down into the spring grain of that wood. Over time, that moisture has gotten into that. You put 3 coats or 4 coats of water base on, depending on how you do your jobs, and now it's rusted.
Mr. Biggins has an excellent. Hey, how's that?
Hey, come on down. Coffee over there. There's drinks over there.
It's like when you sharpen your scraper on top of the raw floor.
Never, ever sharpen
that
your scraper on the wood floor.
Didn't understood until I got explained. I'm like, oh yeah, this has little dots of metal.
Yep.
Steve has a great article that he wrote.
I've made a career out of that. I get people now for a decade, they just come right after me constantly. And you know what? Once it's been mold and mildew, once. And it's really simple. Spray it with anything. It comes up, it's mold or mildew. If it's not spreading, it's somebody hit a hollow in the floor where now they're hand scraping. Red Devil is the most common blade out there. It's high carbon steel. High carbon steel, when suffocated into like an acetate with no oxygen, turns into black rust. Looks like pepper. If not, it would turn into red rust. So I saw one the other night. Guy sent me online. He was running his floor sander. I could tell there were dips because they ran the flooring the same direction as the old pine planking. There's dips, right? You're going along and your big machine just spins and it misses. So you hand scrape. But what these guys do is they'll go, oh, this looks terrible. They'll take their scraper, sharpen, fix it, coat it, and you're fine if it's an oil-based finish. That's why this stuff didn't show up for 50, 60 years. You put a water base of any type, it burns. So what I found out in my testing was you need the fibers of the wood. If you put that metal in a cup full of finish, it won't rust. It needs the fibers to create a circuit. And what happens, it burns till it's black and then it's gone. And people say it's spreading and you go, no, watch it, taper on it, it's not spreading. And what's happening is it's encapsulated, the urethane dries, it's now a burnt piece of fiber. It's called slough, metal slough. It's been snuffed out by the fact that the urethane plasticized it. That's it. You know the answer? You scrape it, sand it goes away. You go, that was odd, it disappeared. Yeah. Watch by windows when people use the windowsill to sharpen their files and things. Like Mike said, you can't have that stuff get into the fibers of the wood. You'll have big trouble.
Always, when if you're a scraper guy, and I'm a huge proponent of scraper, of using the scraper the right way. You sharpen it outside, or if it's a new build house and the carpet's not in yet, go over here on the plywood, or the OSB and sharpen your scraper off your wood floor. Never. I mean, I did it for years on my own. Again, when I started doing this, 999 out of 1,000 floors I did were oil or moisture cured, so the solvents don't affect that.
Right.
You never see it. as soon as I started doing water-based jobs in the late '80s, it was like, ooh, what's that? You know, oh yeah, I just scraped out this room.
Dots everywhere.
You know, and yeah, sure enough, 3 months later, I'm back in there fixing 4 spots. Yeah.
So what's your system on a pigmented seal like Pearl? We always recommend to just hot coat those for fear of, buffing through the color. But like you get to that second coat, and now if you don't get all the green rays, you gotta get it on that first coat of finish, otherwise you're having to do an additional coat, right? So like that, I assume you say don't buff the first coat.
I'll tell you about it.
I do as well.
Even the
Yes.
first coat, of
Yes.
something like Pearl?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
The issue that we see a lot of is different sanding patterns with the edger and the big machine, and that wreaks havoc when you're doing those pigmented sealers. But I've just seen so many disasters with these guys buffing through the color.
Because they're not, well, what Chris said at the beginning is if you're using, you get on it, in that time frame where the finish is still soft enough to maybe accept a hot coat, but you don't want to hot coat it. So you put the SPP pad
Yeah.
on top of a fresh white, and
Thick white.
anything with color or pigment, I use a white pad. If it's an oil floor, I'll use the red ones, but the red ones are a little denser, even when they're an inch thick.
Yeah.
But that way, this thing can contour across the floor, so you can get the heavy grain versus the light grain, and this has got enough give in it. That you're
So you
good.
would just use the maroon pad on the white pad, no strips
SP.
on a pigmented seal?
Yes.
Even the second coat?
Yep.
So, let's talk about green.
The one other thing we can do, and this is why people don't know what people say, what's a green one? We don't ever do yellow is that's the one. Maroon helps a lot, and sometimes blue on raw wood. But when you do, like, say, a white lane sealer or a pigmented sealer, and you don't have that, you don't have the strips, that's what it comes in.
Yeah, but again, you wanna make sure it's properly backed. Do
Yeah,
not put it
exactly.
on, don't use a thin pad, don't use a maroon pad to drive it, use a
Any
fresh
high
white.
spots, it'll bald them right out.
So a thick white pad and a maroon pad, or a thick white pad and a green
And a
sand
green
ball,
sand for
but
pigment.
no additional strips?
No, any pigmented sealers, yep.
So, yes, let's talk about grain rates. So we talked about the Tampico brush. I think you weren't here for that.
I know, I was wondering if you're gonna say that.
Yes.
Not a lot of, he said he has one.
Jonathan uses
There's
one.
not a lot of guys that use that.
So, yes, we just mentioned that Tampicos used to be used a lot more.
Yeah.
Then they went away. Now they're coming back. Tampicos help greatly with grain
Because
rays
they get in the pores.
because they get into the pores
Yeah.
and they stop. So grain rays is mostly semi-fractured fibers of wood that, did not get.
It's your real boss.
Semi-fractured fibers of wood that didn't properly break. They don't get pulled out with the vacuum, even if you've got the horsehair attachment on your wand. So that Tampico gets in, drags all of that out. Now when you water pop it or put water sealer on it, which is water popping, you're going to get less grain rays. You're still, for me, the way that I like to explain this is with my fingers, okay? So this is grain rays, alright? This is grain rays with one coat of sealer. The sealer comes up to the first row of my knuckles, okay? This grain rays is real easy to knock off. Once you lock it into the second knuckle with 2 coats, this is much harder to come off. So you now have to get more aggressive when you buff it. That's when you can get into problems.
So you wanna raise the grain anytime you're doing a water-based finish?
No,
Well, you're going to, and water-based finish naturally is gonna raise the grain just like water.
What he's saying is if you're using a pigmented sealer, you wanna be less aggressive to get the grain rates down.
You
By
started
water,
earlier, is what he's saying. Earlier you start taking grain rays out, that it's a whole lot easier to break this than it is to break that.
so you don't have to be as aggressive.
yeah, I just, like I said, I just worry about
So
these
you're
guys.
trying
I just
to-
worry about these guys going through the color.
You're trying
So
to
we're
achieve
gonna-
a color,
we're gonna
right?
get
You're trying to get either an amber tone or a white or a Nordic or something. So that's why the sanding is so important, because now if you look under a scope, your fibers are this deep, the channels are deep. When you sand at 36 or whatever your first cut is, you don't cut the top off with 100 because everything gets absorbed in. You're now at the level you set. The next grit should bring you to here, to here, to here. When you use a colored sealer, the problem is your sanding is now pulling all that colored pigment in. That's why you hear a lot of guys say, I'm going to put 2 down. You almost never use 2 sealers, but with a pigmented color or a stain, you might have to. So what happens is, you get that, it sucks in, and people go, oh, it worked good last week on maple, it's not working now on white oak, or whatever it might be, because you're not building that color layer. So a lot of guys will say, all right, back when we used to do tinted poly, we'd make our own poly shades, right? Let's leave it a little furrowed, a little rough, not be too aggressive, like Mike said, and let's get another coat of this on there, because we're trying to achieve a color, not a blotchiness. So that's what you want to do. But if you're too aggressive with the screen, now you've taken all that fiber, knocked it off, you're going to see your drum streak lines from your machine, right? You know, like when kids, they take them to a cemetery where they put charcoal and they rub the headstone to see what's there. Same thing, when you screen a poly finish, it's there. It shows you your edging, it shows you everything, and you go, wow, I thought we did a better job on this. And when you're using a toned sealer, best to figure out what color you're trying to get that to break to. Don't be aggressive about knocking it down. Smooth it later. Let's say you get 2 coats of their sealer down, it's a nice color. Now go back and knock off those furrowed parts and get the smoother part of the finish. A lot less concern to be smooth than to get your color where you want it.
Right, and also bear in mind what kind of wood you're working with, because this birch may be softer than this oak, but you're gonna get more grain rates out of this oak than you are this birch, because the grain here is more uniform. You get less variation in the density of the grain in the birch, just like a maple. You know, maple's super hard, hickory's super hard, right? So if you're doing waterborne on those, I'm all about the hot coats and moving fast, because there's not a lot of fiber, there's not as much fiber there standing up.
All right.
Whereas if I'm doing waterborne in a residential job on an oak floor, I braid every coat. Even in the pigments, I won't try to get 100% of the grain rays out, you know, on these early coats, early water-based coats on oak or pine, if you're doing water. But I'll go in there with that SPP pad, and I'll go really quick. And I'll take 85%, 90% of that grain rays out, because the good news is that next coat is gonna cover that other 5.
Right.
You know, it's gonna fill, because it's just gonna. It's just the nature of the floor, you know, because where that 5% or whatever grain rays is deeper down in, so that if you cleaned everything up above it, when you put that next coat on it builds. It's nice and smooth.
Right.
Right, so it's, again, I do, especially if you're doing a plain sawn oak and you're putting a pigmented sealer on it, especially a white, like a Nordic or, you know, any of the white sealers.
Yeah.
Where, you know, we've even done custom stuff where we've made it pink and whatever, because it's in a baby's room or something, and they want the nursery to be ultra chic. Yeah, I've done all the bad stuff that I hate doing, but it pays the bills, right? So yeah, when you're doing stuff like that, you're better off to get that first coat of that pigmented sealer down, and then go in there with that SPP pad and just go really quick, right? And scalp off 80%, because you know you're doing a multiple coat. Very seldom do you do a white pigmented sealer and only do one. Very, very seldom. You know, unless they want it super stark white, and maybe, you know, you might just say, okay, we're just gonna water pot this and stain it white. You know, you gotta address the situation with your customer. Find out, because at the end of the day, it's what they want. You know, if they want a super white looking floor, you know, that's just like, bleach. Yeah. Well, sometimes you bleach, sometimes you don't.
Right.
But, you know, but you're good, but I'm darn sure gonna go in there and dump 2 gallons of water on that floor and water pop it, and just open that thing up, and then I'm just gonna paint it white with stain and, you know, wipe off my excess. And there's your white floor, because that's what they, at the end of the day, that's what they want. And it's a whole lot easier to take this oak, water pop it, and stain it white than it is to start dumping layers of pigment and sealer on. Because here's the good news: if you stain that floor white first, can it be a little whiter? It sure can, but it's going to cost you an extra this, because I got to go buy 2 gallons of this pigment and sealer or make it and put it on. You know, because like Steve said, we used to do it all the time back in the day. You know, we'd stain the floor whatever, brown or mahogany looking or whatever, and then they wanted a little more color. So we always, back in the day, the first coat over the stain, you dump the stain in there, stir it up real good, and just keep stirring the whole way
It's
through the
called
job.
polyshade, but it's all
So you shade in that coat, and then, you know, so that when you've got your oak boards that are different colors, right? And some of them take more stain and some of them take less stain, because of that, when you shade coat it in like that, it pulls that whole floor together and it makes it more uniform. So you don't have the highs and lows, because every one of these boards, they're just like you and me. We're all a little different, right? Some people have dry skin, some people don't. So that dry skin's always gonna soak up more of that coating.
Same thing, yep.
So think about it that way. You know, that there's, you know, I've done it a million times. Stain the floor white. Oh, it's not. What about this and that? Okay, so you shade coat it white on top of it. Saves you, and at the end of the day, it saves you time, because you're not doing 3 coats of pigment and sealing to get the white thing done.
I used to stain before with the 10-inch block and just fill in. And nowadays, using the buffer and rags, it looks so easy, but it doesn't seem the same color. It's not that rich taste.
Well, the difference is, and again, this is very important, because when the guys who lambs wool on, they're stained.
I used to do that a lot before.
Right, but things are different now
Very different.
than what they used to be. The stains don't penetrate as much. So what you end up doing, we used to call it trick wiping. When we would stain a floor and not wipe all the color back off, we would kind of smear it to get that heavier, richer color. Well, nowadays, you're gonna have a peeling problem. You will.
Yes.
Because the finish doesn't have any wood fiber there to bond.
It's the difference between staining and painting, right? That's when your customer goes, I want 4 times. I want 4 times this stain. You're like, no,
Yeah.
you can't do that. It's gonna peel.
That's when I show the customer a stain, you know, if they know they're in that antique brown range.
Right,
So I'll do antique brown, right? And I maybe go 1 shade lighter and 1 shade darker, cover my bases, and then it goes in half, and this is water pop and this is not. Okay, so now you've turned 3 things into 6, but with a minimal amount of extra work. So okay, this is it. There is no in between, you know, unless they say, well, what if you mix this and then, we're not going to go into that today, mixing stains. But you know, it's a whole lot easier to say this is antique brown, and if they want it darker than antique brown, water pop. Just like this is true black, or you know, whatever the company's black stain is.
Yeah.
And this is water pop, because one of them looks more charcoal.
Yeah.
And one of them looks like you painted the floor black.
True.
So that's how you go. You know that whole, in the old days of applicating on your stains. Yeah.
Talking about like 20 years ago.
Yeah. I mean,
They
the
also
stains are
had
different than they
dryers and
used to be.
stuff, so everything that got down in the gap
Right.
would dry a little better. If you do that with Minwax today,
No.
you might want to leave it for a week.
For real.
It squeezed through. The first time I don't know, 30 years ago, I did the floors for my in-laws, and everything's good, looks great. We're gonna do, I think it was Provincial. So we're staining it, and my mother-in-law gets out of the shower. I see her run up the hallway. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. So she leaves. We're young kids. We're staining the floor. We're going along. I see footprint, drip, footprint. We didn't know what to do. So we were in a panic. I go, well, she got the floor wet. We grabbed a towel and we soaked the floor with water. We waited a few hours till it dried, and we stained it. It was the nicest looking floor I've ever done. And a decade later, I told this to some older guy than me, and he goes, "You water popped it?" I go, "What's that?" And he goes, I go, "So I didn't invent that?" He's like, "No, you water popped the floor." But let me come with a warning in the last 40 years.
Right.
Some floors, like red oak and white oak, if you've got that ring shape that you don't see when you're buffing, when you water pop, they come up and you're buffing along, and all of a sudden rip, rip, rip. Since water popping, we've had more board replacements than ever. So you kind of gotta watch that stuff, right? Yeah. Okay.
And the reason that is, you know, because I like to I'm Paul Harvey. I like to let you know the rest of the story.
Good day.
Wood now is harvested much younger. It doesn't have the maturity that it had 10 years ago, 20 years ago,
It breaks the
30 years ago. You know, they're harvesting trees that are this big around,
Yeah.
not this big around.
True.
So the wood is not as dense. The wood, I mean, it's totally different. Still red oak, still white oak, still maple, whatever. But they're harvested so much greener now, younger, that it's not as strong.
The hard part is explaining that to the customer.
Right. It is. You can't.
What's
They
that?
don't care why. They just want you.
Yeah, it's the one the color, yeah.
It's broken. Fix
They
it.
don't know the struggle.
So you know, they don't. So
So for intercoat abrasion, as Ryan was saying about being nervous, guys going through either buffing a stain or a tinted sealer, there's another option. Oh, this is a drywall pole sander. So you thread this onto your stick,
Right.
you put some 180 or 220 on it, and you can just, from standing, very lightly hand sand your floor,
Oh, nice.
right?
And instead of
You're
making your
never gonna break through.
Right. Because you're controlling the pressure with your arms.
Exactly.
You're driving it.
and we've done it in my other world that I live in, the gym world,
Okay.
right?
You do gyms too?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I would love to
I
start
did
that.
tons of gyms. I've millions. I'm probably hundreds of millions of square feet in my life.
Nice.
But anyway, we've done like he's talking about where you're pole sanding like this.
Yeah.
We used to do it. In fact, you did it with me and Randy Gale not long ago. DeWalt makes a battery-operated drywall sander.
Oh, no way.
So it works like this, but it's got an orbital pad on it. It's like 7 inches or 8 inches, I don't remember. But it's a battery pack. So you can, if you've got one of those tough jobs like that, it's 3,000 square feet. This on 3,000 square feet is an all-day sucker.
You know, I mean, like,
Well, not only that, but it's going to take forever. Or you're going to get in a hurry, and you're going to have heavy spots, light spots, heavy spots,
True.
light spots. That DeWalt machine, you basically put just like an SPP pad on it, and you're able to, you know, like if you're a T-bar guy or a roller guy, however, you're able to hold some pressure off of that
Right.
off of that head, and you can just buzz the floor, and you don't have a 170, 140 pound buffer
Oh, it's on it right there.
sitting on it. So yeah, it's a really slick method. Because in the gym world, a lot, like say, you know, you've got the whole gym's abraded, right? And now you just spent 2 days taping and painting all the game lines.
Yes.
It's a whole lot easier to abrade those, you know, to abrade the game lines. If that's all you have to abrade is the game lines, with that little battery operated drywall thing. You know, because
Nice.
you know, you just walk the game lines and you don't have to go across the whole floor. You're not dragging the buffer. Again, the buffer's heavy, so the worst fear is you break the paint. Then you gotta touch it up and you gotta wait for it to dry. It's a vicious circle.
Yeah.
So technology is great on one hand. I hate it on the other side of things. But there's always a way to work smart, not hard. In fact, that's the most important thing I try to teach people. You know, it's work smart, not hard. So.
Okay, so
That's my fault, Vito.
we talked about backing, we talked about the felt wand versus the bristle wand. Doing a great job of getting all of the dust up that you can. The next stage, of course, will be tacking the floor, right? So you can tack with water, you can tack oil with mineral spirits if you want. You can put a little denatured alcohol in there
Right.
that will help it flash off faster. denatured alcohol also helps it to just glide a little better. You can use cloths like this, you can use regular rags, just make sure that you're not contaminating your floor.
Right.
It's not the same rag that you check the oil on the dipstick of your motor that day.
Right.
You don't want to contaminate, obviously. So if you wash towels, don't put them in your regular washing machine with fabric softener. Maybe just wring them out under the towel,
Right.
okay, where they're staying clean.
It's a new one for Home Depot.
A new bag from Home Depot. That doesn't
I
cost very much.
tell you, when odd lots came out, big lots, you know, the dollar stores,
Yes.
you go in there and you I'd buy hundreds at a time of cheap towels,
Right.
right? And all I would do is I would go home and I would just run one cycle of hot water, quick wash, and throw them in the dryer. Like he said, no fabric softener. And that just softens them up just a little bit.
Yeah.
So they're ready to be.
And the chemicals in the soap.
And plus, if there's a loose fiber, you're going to get rid of it. You know, if you do use tack towels, and a lot of guys do, before you do anything, snap them off, shake them really hard. Because again, any loose fibers, you're getting rid of them. I'd rather shake it off outside in Mrs. Smith's yard than have it falling into your floor. You know.
Finger it there all the time.
Right. And also, if you're a contractor who does oil and does water, whether you're tacking with towels or pads or whatever, don't use the same one on oil and water. Okay, because
Oil and water.
right. You know, don't. Always dedicated, fresh, clean.
Eso pusimos una toallita nueva cuando limpiamos el piso. Porque si no puede ser que el otro tenga como aceite contra agua o viceversa, va a dejar la línea.
What's this cost? Think about what does this cost?
$5.
$5, $8. Even if it's 11,
Yeah,
costs a whole lot less than a free coat of finish on a floor.
for real.
A whole lot. Costs a whole lot less money.
Not kidding.
You know, just people jump over pennies and waste dollars.
True.
You know, the old guys, penny wise, dollar foolish.
Pound foolish, yes.
Yeah, right?
English. Okay, any questions on intercoat abrasion, backing and tacking, cleaning the floor?
Abrasion. So it's better to abrade every single coat. First coat, buff it. Second coat, buff it.
Great question, Jonathan, thank you. So, the book answer is that you get the best adhesion by buffing every coat because you get a mechanical and a chemical bond.
Right.
So people like Mike and I, who are always trying to make sure that you guys don't risk too much,
Right.
our first advice is, sure, buff every coat.
Okay.
That's the way that you get the best looking floor with the best adhesion.
Okay.
Now, we are also ex-contractors, and we know that everybody's in a hurry, and sometimes you feel like, you know what, there's no grain raise, I'm pretty quick after, within a certain window of 18 hours. So hot coating is when you don't abrade the floor. Hot coating is when you get a chemical bond only. The top coat coming onto this one kind of wakes the old one up, and they melt in together, right? And they fuse and become a single coat.
A little rougher.
And you have to do it within a certain window.
Okay.
Now this is
That's
all
the
to
key.
do, and now we're going to start talking about
That's the key. Okay.
environmental conditions, the job that you're on. Is it oak, is it birch, is it pine? They're all going to dry differently.
Right.
Everything's going to change a little bit like that, right?
And more importantly, is it a forced air gas heat house? You know, where you've got propane or natural gas on a forced air system, which is a moisture heat. It's a little bit moister.
Yeah.
Versus I've got this, oil boiler over here that's heating hot water, and I've got radiant heat,
Right.
which is super dry.
It's super dry. Yeah.
Right? So when we tell you an 18-hour window, 18 hours is going to be in a range of, say, 68 to 75 degrees. Fahrenheit temperature,
Right.
but also a relative humidity range of somewhere between 35 and 50%.
50%, right.
Really easy to hit.
So just the average.
It's really easy to hit with a forced air system.
Oh, I see, okay.
But when it's 17 degrees out and you're working in New Hampshire or Maine or in northern Wisconsin and the house has got radiant heat, which is super dry,
Yeah.
18 hours isn't 18 hours, it's 12.
Oh, I see.
Because whether it's oil or water, everything in there is evaporating faster because the air is so dry.
So to hot coat it, they have to be 12 or 18 hours.
The hot coat
After
window,
that-
the hot coat window for all of our products, I'm just gonna speak generically for GameTime.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we tell you 18 hours,
I see.
but that's in that range. The temperature and the humidity.
And what's the earliest? Like per se,
I-
even like
with, with our water-based sealer, the high build, again, job site conditions, I've been on them as quick as 90 minutes.
I see. So
You
let
know,
it dry
I've been
couple
on-
hours. Feel
I've
it.
had
No,
one guy
two
in
things.
particular told me he waited 45 minutes and got the next coat.
Right. There's
That's
a difference.
quicker than we want.
There's a difference.
That's a bit too quick.
Yes.
Everybody knows what a moisture meter is, right? This is the Wagner 220. It's great for checking the moisture content of wood. But they make another one. Wagner does. And I'm not going to speak about other brands because I don't know if Lingamat or anybody else makes one. It's a surface meter, right? No pins. But Wagner makes one called the 607, which has been around a long time. Notice it, like me. But that meter has a button on it. Like this has a specie button.
Yep.
Well, the Wagner the 607 has another button that instead of laying this on the floor and it reading down a half inch, it's only reading down a quarter.
Dual depth.
Dual depth, yes. It's a dual depth meter is what it's called. And what that tells you is how wet that wood is that you just sealed. Does not work on wood, I will tell you that. But it works great if your back's against the wall and you're trying to get this water-based, maybe it's a repair or maybe it's a whole job. But real simple rule. You come in here before you seal, you take the moisture reading of the raw wood and say, okay, it tells
How's that
you.
one?
Yeah, well, that's the new one.
No, right.
Yep. That's good. Good meter. Yep.
Yep. So, but it's dual depth. I got shoulder problems too.
Yeah.
But so the trick is if you're really trying to press a job and get it done quickly and it's water, you read the moisture content of the raw wood, write it down so you don't forget, because we all forget, right? Talk numbers all day.
Well, nowadays pictures and videos are the best.
Or pictures, yeah, lay it on the floor, snap a
Gosh,
picture.
look at this.
But honest to goodness, at the end of the day, if heaven forbid you have a problem,
Yeah.
and you have to call Chris or you have to call me or whoever,
Yeah.
every bit of information you can give us helps you solve that problem. So, you check the moisture content of the raw wood, put your water-based sealer down. You can safely hot coat that floor when you're back within 1% of the same moisture content. So whether it's, if you're, down in the deep south and your wood's at 13%, or you're way up in northern, wherever, and the wood content's only 4.5 or 5.5% moisture, just because of climate, right?
Right.
What happens in the desert is totally different than what happens in the swamp. You just get back within 1%. 1%.
1% of the original.
Of whatever the raw wood was. So
No matter how much time has passed?
yeah, because
It's not about time.
it's not about time.
It's about the environment.
It's about evaporation of solvents.
It's not about curing?
Well, no. It's curing is going to be happening in the drier conditions, right? So maybe we have, again, residential world, gym world. It happens unfortunately all the time in the gym world where they'll seal the floor, and because the building's empty, the HVAC's programmed through a laptop or through an iPad or whatever, it doesn't run. So if you pull a coat of water base on a 1,500 square foot residential job, by the time you're done coating that 1,500 square feet.
Oh, so you're talking about within the 24 to 48
Yeah,
hour?
within the
Oh,
hot coat window.
I thought you were talking about like.
Oh, I'm talking about speeding it up faster. But what can happen is, well, it's been 6 hours, I know this is dry. It says so on the job. If the HVAC's not running,
You're talking about speeding up.
yeah, I'm talking about what you're trying, if you're pressed to get the job done, for whatever reason. I'm talking about how to do it safely. How to do it safely. So you get that moisture content back to within 1%.
Yeah.
You're safe. You know, it may be, it could be, like I say, I've done it, and I've hot coated jobs as fast as 45 minutes.
Okay.
You know, off the record. I've put a second coat of water-based sealer over my first coat of water-based sealer in 45 minutes.
What do you recommend, like stuff that he's going through all the time, like on these big new constructions, right? These custom homes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he'll go in and install the floor, and then they're not ready to have it finished for 4 months, 5 months, you know. And so he might install it in June, and it's not ready to be coated until October or November.
I would tell you this, when you bid that job, and you know it's gonna happen, do the math, get 1 extra coat of water-based sealer.
Right?
And just seal the raw wood.
That's
Just when you're done installing the floor, broom sweep it, vacuum, get it as clean as you can, and pull 1 coat of sealer on that floor and leave.
you can even use some expired water-based.
You could use that, I mean, it could be bubbly, yeah,
It's a good
whatever.
way. It's a good way to get rid of expired.
You know, say you've got 6, over here you got 6 partial jugs of whatever water-based sealer. Dump them all together into a 5-gallon pail, stir it up real good, and then pour it back out into however you apply it to the floor. If you work out of a jug, put it back in the jugs. If you work out of a pour pitcher, like some guys use a watering can, do that.
Right.
Just mix it all together so you have a consistent viscosity. If it feels a little thick because it's been sitting for a while, cut a little water into it. About 16 ounces per 5 gallons. So 4 ounces to a gallon.
Right.
So basically, 3.5, 4 ounces per gallon. You can add some water into old sealer like that in your condition, or situation rather. So just protect that floor a little bit.
Yeah, nobody does it.
No, because what's going to
I
happen?
knew one guy who used to put a coat of Zinsser down.
Yeah, well, that Zinsser, that would work, and it dries quick. You know, and the other thing that kind of gives you just a little bit of protection from is when they're painting the floor or painting the house. You know, if they're painting overhead, and you know, you get into these faux finishes and stuff, and all this crazy artsy fartsy stuff that people are doing.
The spray paint everywhere.
Yeah, or they're spraying. You know that. You know, especially if you're dealing with a one common red or white oak. You know, and you've got all that spring grain up against the wall, and they're spraying white baseboard.
Yeah.
No, it's not easy to get all that white out of the floor. So having that sealer there to protect it,
Stops
protects
it from
you.
getting in.
Yeah. So, yeah.
All right, we're going to keep moving because we slowed down and we're trying to do this kind of fast, but we're going to come back to some of that discussion. We're going to move on now to application methods. So, everyone knows the T-bar.
Yeah.
Everyone knows a roller.
Yeah.
Everyone knows a pad applicator. We've even got guys that are still using brushes. We don't care how you put your finish down. Today we're just going to roll. Maybe I already used the pad for my first coat. I like these cutting pads sometimes. They come in different sizes, and they can be very handy. Some guys love the T-bar.
How many T-bars?
No,
Not yet.
T-bar's a great way of putting down finish.
Yeah.
It has its pros and its cons, as does a roller, as do any methods, right? If you have a big gapped out floor, which we have a lot here, as we all know,
Oh yeah.
particularly the pine, where there's a gap you could just about lose your kid down. If you T-bar, you're losing so much product down into those gaps that you're also going to be waiting on. So maybe that's a job where you say, you know what, I'd be much better rolling this way. And then vice versa. There's some places, you know, if I had a room like this, why would you roll it? Nice big square room, T-bar is way faster. but T-barring does take a little more practice. So some guys get very nervous about that. Most people seem to stick to whatever they learned. But we're happy to come out and show you guys how to T-bar or how to roll. The important thing for us is 500 square feet per gallon for game time finishes. As close as you can. First coat is probably going to be more porous. It's going to suck that finish up a bit more. And by the third coat, it's hard to get it down to 500 feet a gallon. But we don't want you at 800 feet. You know,
Right.
if you're 550, 600, not the end of the world.
Give yourself, just like everything else, you got a margin, right? 10%. That's what I preach.
I see.
So, you know, on your, when you're thinking about seal coats, thinking about 450. Thinking about my last coat of oil, thinking about 550. So if you use 500 for an average when you're bidding your job, you know, that's a great way to hit the number because you're winning 10% of that 500.
Perfect.
So that's we recommend 500 feet per gallon, and we know that at the end of the job, first coat's 450, second coat's about 500, third coat's going to be about 550.
Right.
You know,
It's going
but
more-
your average is going to swing right there.
Alright.
And at the end of the day, it's leaving that millage of finish on top of the floor that's going to protect it and keep it looking healthy and looking right. So that's where it comes from.
So if you walk out of your job that you just did, that was 500 square feet, and you know you used 1 gallon, you did great. We don't need to change it.
You finish with a quarter of the gallon?
I do get those calls from guys going, how the heck do you put it down to 500 feet a gallon? That's really hard. So for me personally, if I am using a new product or, you know, we've all been doing this a while, right? So once you have your system down and you're getting that 500 feet a gallon, do it however you want. But when I'm teaching guys with a roller, I start working out of a paint tray or a bucket. And the reason for that is that I want to know exactly what I'm doing every time. So I take the same size dip, and I'll show you this later, in my roller, and I do the same size area. It's about a 2x3, okay? And then I dip again. I do another 2x3. I dip again, another 2x3.
Okay.
And I know, for me
Consistency.
personally, that consistency, I get to the end of the job and I go, I'm about 500 feet a gallon. Now I don't have to work out of a paint tray next time because I know my feel, you know, but that's a good way of just getting your system down,
I see.
okay? If you're T-barring, depends a lot on your speed that you walk at. It also depends on the pressure that your other hand puts on. It should not be putting any pressure. But if you walk fast, it can be skipping. If you walk too slow, so
Pause.
you can have problems going either way, like everything in our industry, right? It's all about getting the balance the right way.
What he's talking about with a T-bar is,
Yeah.
a lot of guys will run a T-bar like this,
Yeah, I see your videos.
right? That's wrong.
Alright.
Everybody does it, unless I mean, so it's okay to hold your hand like this, but don't have the crotch of your thumb in here on
Pressure
this,
right there.
Right?
right? Because you are indirectly applying pressure.
Yeah.
Other videos, you see guys walking backwards. Well,
Yeah.
guess what? When you walk backwards and you're pulling that T-bar like that, you are applying downward pressure. You're increasing the pressure on the floor. So technically, you're cutting your finish thinner. So when you walk a T-bar, and I do, if I'm teaching, I cradle it, right? All you are is a bus driver,
Alright.
okay? You want your bus driver looking backwards or where they're going? Always where they're going.
It's like playing golf.
So if you, what's that?
It's like playing golf.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So when you walk a T-bar, I cradle it because all this is doing is helping me keep it straight.
Right.
And that way the pressure is the same every time. And you can go forward this way and you can go forward this way. It's
Same
just
pressure.
all you do is changing which hand is where, right?
Same pressure, yeah.
And we pull, we don't push.
Always pull a
Right.
T-bar.
Lots of videos out there of guys pushing with the T-bar.
People say they're pulling a T-bar, right? And they're walking backwards. Boom. When your hands are like this, you're pushing a T-bar. Or a lamb wool. Or whatever. Or a pad. So if you're using a flat applicator that's not a roller, you know, when I teach people this, you know, some guys can't get over the idea of cradling it. Just make a circle. Okay, this should be able to move around in there,
Perfect.
okay?
That's good to know.
And that's, so when you're using something other than a roller, and do you understand why I'm saying that? Because when you're using a flat applicator, pad, T-bar, lamb's wool, they apply finish this way, horizontally. A roller rolls, right?
Yeah.
It applies finish vertically, even though you don't see it, but rollers apply finish vertically. So all the other applicators, brushes, pads, T-bars, they apply finish horizontally. So the pressure determines the millage and the flow. Whereas a roller, it's all about sound. I preach that too. If it sounds like you're painting a wall, you don't have enough finish. That roller should be dead quiet. You might hear the roller click, 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 kicking over. That's normal. I mean, it's the mechanical part of the roller. But if it sounds like you're painting a wall, you don't have enough finish.
That's all.
So I mean, it's a real simple rule. Chris has got a great method. You know, like he says, he knows he wants to do a 2x3 area every time, because in his world of how he's learned to roll, that works great. You know, and again, the knack of the roller is going to play a huge factor in that too. Are you using a 1/4 inch? Are you using a 3/8? You know, I did a job years ago teaching an NWFA. I wasn't a job, I was helping it with an NWFA school, and I had this young kid from Poland who was putting the finish down, and he did his water-based sealers with a steel trowel. You know, the stainless steel trowel, the way they coat floors in Europe. I guarantee you his coverage on his seal coats was somewhere around 1,200 feet per gallon. But he did 3 seal coats, 3, because they were so thin and dried so fast, and we were checking it with a meter. He did 3 seal coats. He'd walk outside, seal his panel, walk outside, smoke a cigarette, walk back in, coat it again. Walk outside, smoke a cigarette, come back in and coat it again. The stuff was drying in 10 minutes, you know, because of how there's lots of ways to achieve the right thing, right? And they've been doing it in Europe a whole lot longer than we've been doing it here.
Right.
You know, but over there, when they put their last coat of finish on, I've seen guys over there using rollers that might as well have a 1 foot nap on them. I mean, it's over a 1/2 inch. I mean, it's like they just fling the finish when they're putting their final coats down. But they move really slow, so they're not flipping it up on the walls and everywhere else. But their base coats are really thin, their finish coats are really heavy. That's just, again, at the end of the job, averaging 500 square feet per gallon. That's what matters. Right? So
You roll, right?
Yeah.
You have the plastic edges, right?
Yeah.
The bone of the pack roll.
okay, so it's the ones with the discs on the edge.
Yeah.
And that's perfect, because guess what? You can't push down on that.
Oh.
Number one mistake made with rolling is pushing down on the roller, because again, it's just like pushing down on a flat applicator. You're squeezing the finish.
And even change.
Difference is you're creating, when you roll and you press, then you're introducing more air into the coat. And that's what makes it dry. So that if you get a bubbly coat of sealer or finish, it's usually because you're applying pressure to the roller, you're putting it down thin, and it's drying too quick. And that's, you know, again, that's generic to any brand of finish, but when you use a roller like you have with the discs on the edge, that stops you from applying that pressure to the roller cover. And that's a very smart tool, because it forces you to put the finish down. And with that setup, if you're using a 3/8 snap roller, you're probably gonna get closer to like 400 1/4 out of a waterborne. It's okay. If that's what the finish is designed to do, then you're doing the right thing.
How do you feather if the baseboard's on?
Brush.
Yeah, so you cut in and then when you're rolling into it, right, as you get to the end where you've already pre-sealed it, you just kind of feather it up, just like you would a lamb's wool or a T-bar. You know, you feather in and out of your end, so it's like an airplane taking off or landing. So you roll in. If this is the wall, right, you're rolling in and you feather up, and you stop short of the wall because you cut in, and then when you come back, you're basically landing the plane back in without hitting the wall. So that way you're not leaving a hard line. Because that's very common in the water-based world, where guys will cut in, especially if they've done oil forever and ever and ever, they just started doing water. which isn't as much of a problem now as it was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But, you know, with oil, with oil poly, you can cut in a whole 12 by 12 bedroom,
Yeah.
you know, and then come back with your T-bar, your roller, or your lambs one coating, and that oil stays wet, right? But if you go in there with your trim pad and your water base, and you cut in a whole 12 by 12 room, right? You go back and you start. By the time you get over here, this is dry, and if you run your roller like I see some guys that run their rollers like this, right? So they just stop and come back as they're rolling across the floor. Over here, looks great. But when you finish the bedroom, now you've got 2 coats of sealer on the edges and 1 coat out here, and it's darker and it stays dark. So, again, you know, working with water, I only cut in what you can keep wet, is the best way I could tell you. So if you're working alone and it's a big job, you might only cut in 2 feet at a time. You know, or you've got airflow that you can't control, which is, you know, not as much in a home as you're gonna get on a commercial job.
Yeah.
But, you know, maybe you're doing a bank or a doctor, you know, some kind of office or, you know, somewhere where you've got, you know, wood hallways and carpet off to the side, but you're basically working in wind tunnels. You may not feel it. There's a ton of uncontrolled airflow there because the ceilings might be 15 or 18 feet. You know, there's a lot of stuff to take into account. So, you know, only work what you can manage and keep wet when you're cutting in and rolling the water or T-bar or anything in the water roll. Only cut in what you can keep wet, you know, by the time you're there.
So they all come in different sizes, right? You can use your 9-inch rollers. You can get ones that open up really big. Worcester makes a nice big bucket. So if I'm in a big job and I'm working on my own, to Mike's point about trying to keep everything wet, if I'm in a big job, I want a big roller.
Right.
I'm not using the 9-inch, right? There are times where I've had multiple application methods on the same job. I have my pad sitting in a bucket ready so I can bang out small little tight areas. I might have my T-bar for doing that great long hallway or a nice big roller, and then I might have to switch back to a 9-inch for this room, you know? But these are all the tricks and tips that you need to think about to keep that wet edge. What we want is a even, uniform coat. If you go heavier around the edges and lighter in the middle, or the other way around, it's going to show. Okay? So, even, uniform.
Especially on the first coat. I don't care if you're doing oil or water. Everybody says you get paid on the finish coat, right? I've seen more bad seal coats ruin great sand jobs. I've seen more bad seal jobs ruin those floors just because, you know, the job's too big for the manpower. And that's a simple way to put it, because again, managing your coatings, only coat what you can keep wet, only cut in what you can keep wet. They're hard to find, but they make a 14-inch roller, which is my personal favorite, because it's hung like this, right? So you've only got edge on one side. So to your point, you know, if the base and if the final trim's not on yet, there's no shoe molding. Mm-hmm. Imagine how fast you could go with that 14-inch roller if you just walk the wall, right? Because you can get right up to...
Shoe mold is a curse word around here.
Well, some people use it, some people don't. In the remodel world, it's fact.
Yeah.
You know,
But in the older homes where you have like the old
the
like
12-inch mop boards.
three component baseboard.
Oh yeah.
That's not coming on.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, but at the same time too, if I'm gonna do a job like that as a contractor, I'm gonna undercut that baseboard and I'm gonna cut my floor net, you know, because I know that mop board is almost a full 3/4 of an inch thick, right? Because that's just the way the wood was milled back then.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna build that floor. I'm gonna take my fine undercut saw or my jam saw or whatever I cut my door jambs on remodels. I'm gonna undercut every inch of that base. And I'm gonna, when I install that floor, I'm gonna install it net, so that it's under that base. Because that way, when you leave the job, it looks like it was done in the 1800s, right? The way they did floors back in the day.
Yep.
Floors were installed and then the trim was put on top of it.
Yep.
You know, it's the only way to do a resto job the right way.
Yep.
Yeah, but I love the 14-inch rollers, just because you get more surface area when you're coating, but you have the ability, if you don't have that last piece of trim on yet, you can go right up against
I
it.
think the 14-inch ones are the ones that they actually cut at an angle on each edge.
No, I'm talking about rolling now. The T-bars.
The T-bar,
In
okay,
the T-bar world, they make the 12s like that.
Not that one.
Duratools. No, Padco is.
But
Padco
there's
is
some
straight.
that will actually angle it.
Duratools are tapered.
Yeah.
The brand Duratool is tapered.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
it's a big 45 on
Yeah. Yep.
that. So let's talk about that feathering and airplane for a minute.
Yep.
So, as Mike was saying, that first coat of sealer that you put down wants to be nice and even. Same everywhere. So, let's pretend this is a wall. When I come to start this section, like I said, I do my 2 by 3, right? So we'll pretend this is 2 feet wide. So I'm going to cut in, possibly the whole way down, depending on the size of the room. And then my roller has to be fully saturated before I start to use it. If you just dip your roller into the bucket halfway and lift it up and put it on the floor, you're going to get what I call the womp womps. Womp, 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 when that roller goes uneven. So you need to fully saturate it first, so that when you do that, it spins freely the same. It doesn't go buh, buh, buh. Okay, that's important. So you've cut in your first section. Now you're going to put the poly on the floor, and we're going to do this pretty soon. And feathering an airplane basically just means instead of going start, stop, you come down like an aeroplane landing, and then take off like an aeroplane taking off. Right? That's all. That's all airplane is. So that you don't leave a hard line here, a ridge. If you stop in the same place every time, you're going to leave a ridge. And if that ridge doesn't have the time it needs to flow out, you're going to see it when you come back.
And going back to sanding, you know, we talked about that. When you sand a room, you know, because you're sanding usually room by room, right? And you pick up your drums, you feather in, you feather out, right? But you also never start and stop in the same place. Because you will sand this floor and it's flat, and it's smooth, and it's perfect. And you've got this bank of windows over here when you walk in the front door, and you'll see that, and it usually varies about this much.
Yep.
If it's a small to mid-sized room, right down the middle, there's a line, but you can't see it if you're looking down at it. But when you walk in the front door, you can see it plain as day, because that's where you started and stopped your whole big machine run. Stagger it. So, you know, if you back up this far on this pass, then you go back to the wall, and you back up this far on your next pass, so you're stair stepping across the floor. And you do the same thing in reverse going back, so you never see that transition line.
Exactly. So when you're coding, when I come back, I might come back to say here with this one, and maybe here with this one, and maybe here with this one. And then as I come to do my next one, I come over that, which is the feathering part. You don't just go to where you went, you come right over and you lift up. Particularly for that first coat. After the first coat, you don't have to be as precise, but that first coat, as even as you can. Particularly if it's a pigmented sealer. If it's a pigmented sealer, you really need that extra care.
Everything is extra important at that point.
Right. All about getting that even, uniform coat. So yeah, they all come in different sizes. Doesn't matter if it's the T-bars, the rollers. Some have got the tapered ends, some don't. So that's all of our application methods. Any questions on that? Okay.
You understand how finish it is made and dries?
No.
So let's just say a typical water-based finish is, I'm gonna use 30 because it's an easy round number, right? 30% solids. Most of them are, some are 28, some are 34. We'll just use 30 because it's an easy number to talk about today. So if a finish is 30% solids, that means it's 70% solvent, right? Solvent evaporates and dries and goes away. So whatever, when you put it down, you know, and in the case of, you know, if you're talking about most water-based finishes are designed to go down about 3 mils wet, and it's not millimeters. Mil is a different measurement, right? But if you're at around 500 square feet per gallon in your coatings, you're going to be real close to that 3 mils of wet film, right? So when you put down 3 mils of wet film, and 70% of it evaporates, right?
70%.
Because it's water. You know, oils are different because most oils are in the 40s, so 60% evaporates. That's why 3 coats of oil always looks thicker than 3 coats of water. Just fact, right? So what's left, so you take your solid content times your millage, your wet millage, and that's what's left on the floor. So if you put down 3 mils wet of finish, and it's 30% solids, that leaves you 0.9. Less than 1 mil of dry film is what's left. That's why when you're coating with water, water-based floors tend to look thinner, not as built up.
Right. Yeah.
So, more important to hit your spread rates.
And what's a total, it has to be like around, what, 120?
Right, so the chemists years ago, we always did, before water even came out, we always did 3 coats of oil, right? Why did we do 3 coats? The reason is the chemists wanted us to get to this total accumulated solids content of about 100 to 120. So most oils are 40-something%. Ours is 43, 44. So if you do 3 coats of 44, you've got 44, 88, 120 of them. You're there, right? If you take a water-based, and most water-based are 30, 31, 32, 33, if you do 3 coats at 33, you've only hit 99. So you're pretty much there with your 3 coats. But if you went thin, if you went at 600, 700 feet per gallon, you're not even going to get to that 90.
What's the average sealer?
In the 30s.
In the oil-based world?
No, water-based.
In the water-based, the average water-based sealer is between 28 and 30.
So,
The average water-based finish is between 31 and 35.
so 2 coats of sealer, and 2 coats of, like, traffic, or that's gonna get you.
That'll
That
get
gets you
you.
to 120.
Right.
The problem with water-based when you put on 4 coats is that it takes on more of the plastic.
Yeah.
So this to me is a little bit of a dilemma in the industry right now. When water-based first came out, I think most people did 4 coats for the reasons we've just said. They
Back in
wanted
the day, we were
the
doing
equivalent
5
build.
because the water-based sealers were only 22, 23% solids back in the day. They were higher in acrylic, so you could only put 1 down. You could only put 1 sealer on the floor, and then you were putting finish on top of it because you couldn't abrade those old water-based sealers. Couldn't be buffed. They
That's
were-
like the Bona Classic sealer, you can't double coat.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Bonus Classic Sealer, Basic makes Hydroline Sealer, which you can't buff those sealers because they have so much acrylic. You know, we have in our high build, and to our competitors' credit, they a lot of them are on the bandwagon and have been. Right? We use a synthesized. It's an oil resin emulsified into the water base carrier. Right, in the resin, so we don't have to put so much acrylic to give it the body, to give it what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Technology's come a long way, baby.
Yeah.
You know, if you're old like me, you remember when 8 tracks were cool. And cassettes, oh
Do
wow.
you guys have anything in the works, a product like the Prime that they were working on? I had that question the other day. Brett Benway was asking me, because on the Vineyard, they gotta do restaurants and it's gotta be quick, you know? You have anything like that where,
So in the gym world, we have a product called Excel, which
Okay.
is 50% solids.
yep,
There is more film build from one coat of that than 2 coats of nearly any other
Of any other one.
of a you can run water mix.
so on a recoat,
Oh,
you
no.
could technically do.
We have one coat, we have a one coat product.
That's a one coat recoat or a 2-coat
Right.
over barewood.
But if you had that job you're trying to get to on the vineyard, and you want the buildup that you're talking about, but you want, you know, you still want a quick cure time, you could actually, in our system, come in and seal with the high build,
Yeah.
come back in on top of the high build with a coat of our Excel, and get that depth you want in one next coat. Come back in the next day and put on a traditional 2K water if you want that matte or that satin sheen to get you where you want to be. Because the other problem when you're dealing with those high solid products like that is they're all high gloss. And most people don't want that anymore. You know, they don't want a high gloss finish. My previous life, you know, when we had the Prime, you know, we were silicating that. The issue you run into with that is, with that kind of technology, is it's VOC compliant. It is hammer handle hard, but the chemicals that are used in those kinds of coatings are still neurotoxins, basically. It may be low VOC, and it may be okay, but it's still very can be neurologically damaging to you because it's got formaldehyde in it.
That's why I'm crazy.
Yeah, formaldehyde is the gift that keeps on giving, because technically speaking, formaldehyde never stops off-gassing. Even when you can't smell it, there's still something there.
Even after it's fully cured?
Even 3 years later, I have very good friends of mine that were installing a pre-finished floor in somebody's house at their church, helping a couple out, helping out an old elderly couple. They had to have some wood floors put in, and it was going to be easier for the wheelchair and stuff. And they set their saws up outside, cut every board outside. Didn't want the dust in the house. Good stuff, right? Both got them. They both ended up in the hospital with acute formaldehyde poisoning after being checked and having probably 7.5, 8 days worth of blood work done, testing for this, testing for that, because it was a lumber liquidator
So
special.
if you put a bamboo floor in, then, I mean, this formaldehyde in every bamboo floor.
Right, right, and it never stops off gas.
I mean, there's formaldehyde in every engineered floor.
Right. So technically speaking, the only way you're ever gonna get rid of that is to coat over them with a site finish to seal in.
So a pre-finished engineered floor has an off gas.
It's still gonna be off-gassing formaldehyde. And you just can't smell it.
So,
But yeah, but
That-
both of
that's
these,
not what the
both guys, I
manufacturers
mean,
will tell
they
you.
had,
I
they
can
were
assure you that.
literally in the
This-
hospital for 6 days.
This question comes up, and I can tell you that every manufacturer says no, there's no off gas. Interesting,
Ask the chemist, how long does formaldehyde off-gas?
interesting.
I use a mask now.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean,
should be.
honestly, I mean, if you're gonna do a product like, you know, like, I mean, because you can still buy the Swedish finishes, and they are incredibly durable. You know, you can still buy moisture cure urethanes, and they are incredibly durable, and there's even some companies that make VOC compliant moisture cure urethanes that are 350 grams per liter. Bottom line is, they're still made with xylene, toluene, and formaldehyde. 3 chemicals that basically turn your brains to mush. You know, when you're working with a product like that, you know, this doesn't cut it.
Right.
Or, you know, the normal respirator with the charcoal filters isn't enough protection, because those chemicals absorb into your body through any moist opening. So it's not your mouth and your nose, it's your eyelids, your ears. Yeah.
Wow.
So
You got an open cut on your arm, it's going in there.
Any laminate floor, I mean, every time you cut a laminate floor, you're introducing formaldehyde into the
Yeah.
environment.
Yep. Nobody takes any of that into consideration. Yeah, I mean, they literally were outside where they should have been safe, but they breathed in enough formaldehyde
every
from
time
cutting
you,
that wood that they
every
both
time you
ended up
install
with
any
formaldehyde
engineered floor,
poisoning.
you're exposing yourself to formaldehyde, any engineered floor.
Jesus Christ. Gotta go to the hospital tomorrow. The neighbors asked if you could keep it down, it's a little out of control over here.
No, but it's a
It makes
fact.
sense though, it makes sense. Wow.
Breathing dust from formaldehyde, even if it's cured, you're breathing formaldehyde.
25 years reading that stuff.
So, yeah, I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but it's the truth.
The amount of guys that do not use proper PPE when they're installing, sanding and coating is ridiculous.
I'm one.
I'm another.
We
probably
didn't
all
know
are,
anything
right?
about it. When I first started doing moisture cure finishes back in the 80s and I learned it, nobody wore masks. We didn't know any better.
Yeah, a lot of these guys are down on their hands and knees sniffing it.
But
You
you know
go
how
home,
we
get in the
figured it out?
shower, you could feel it.
We had a white stained floor. We were putting non-yellowing moisture cure on it because we used to have this really cool system for our white stained floors. Is we would seal them with non-yellowing moisture cure, and then we would stack coats of water base on it because the moisture cure would get cured and hard as soon as you came in the next day. You buffed it, you put water on it. Well, moisture cure uses moisture to get hard, right? So we were snap curing our base coat by dumping water on it, which you had to move really fast. And in turn, that first coat of water would dry super fast. So we could get on it and keep the job moving.
Remember, we used to get calls saying bombs were going off on the floor because of the channelization and it was exploding.
No, we never had that. But because back then we acclimated our floors properly.
We didn't,
We didn't say 3 days or 5 days. We said, okay, as soon as, this is 4-inch plank. So as soon as it's within 2%, or I'm sorry, 0.5% of the subfloor, then it's acclimated. Because that's truly when it's acclimated, is when the different, and the wider the plank, the closer that gap has to be. So 2 1/4 has only got to be within like 2% of the moisture content of the subfloor to be acclimated, to be considered acclimated and safe to install. So as long as that happens, then you get to the wider planks, at 4-inch, you got to be within 0.5%. If you're doing a 7-inch plank, they virtually have to be the same, or it's not considered acclimated. That's why you got guys now, they're doing 7-inch, these big plank floors. They're quick sanding the subfloor, then they seal it with a vapor barrier, right? So they're trying to roll on 1 or 2 coats of vapor barrier to seal the moisture into that floor, right? Which is great as long as it wasn't wet to begin with, because then you could be creating
Greenhouse.
Yeah. Think about a logo that you have 3 layers of paint mask with 6 different colors in.
Look at
Nice.
Patriots logo.
And you see
Lovely.
how they do like a whole arena holes.
If you go to our
Of course, the
channel for
Specialty
GameTime
Forest
Maps,
Products logo.
you'll see a couple of really neat floors.
Nice. Really nice.
In game time. Okay. So, I don't know what he just said to you, but this has come from the sports world, helping them do incredible designs, but this can come right into residential. Instead of cutting in a medallion,
Love it.
Yeah, because we can use transparent ink and make it look like wood grain.
anything you want.
And you can have,
send me a photograph.
we can use transparent oranges and reds and browns and make it look like a 5-species
We can
inlay.
make the Celtics and the Brewers, and we could a picture of you in the golf swing, the kids on the beach, whatever the hell you want. We have 3 full-time graphic designers that work for us. That if you have no idea what you want to do, you could just talk to them and come up with something,
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The family crest.
That's a money maker.
Chris, this is torn.
Yes, it is.
Well, we could cut this down, make it smaller, right?
No, it's it's torn on the bottom. And I mean, if you've got a straight edge you can cut with, yeah, sure, go for it. I'm just telling you.
We won't worry about that. Okay, Jonathan, would you like to put down some high build on this raw floor so that you've done it and you know how it's going to feel? So, I didn't say this earlier, but our water base, we recommend a 3/8 knot, and our oil, we recommend a 1/4 inch knot.
Oh, it's okay.
Okay?
It is for what it is.
I haven't seen that off. Can you give that a bit of a rub for me, please? Right-handed or left-handed?
Right-handed.
Okay, let's start this way.
Actually, I do both.
You go both ways? I heard that about you.
Would help if I grab one in.
All right, ready?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out.
The hardest
Okay,
thing
I was
you've
like,
got to do
well, the
first
print
is
makes it
get
look
that
like I
one
want it to go this way.
The trees, look at the tree.
Like I want it to go this way.
Yeah.
Do you want Melvin doing it?
Huh? Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
Let me just soak
You
this.
keep picking on Melvin.
We should have put a strainer on that.
It's kind of like when we used to put the vinyl on the cars or the trucks or the windows.
Yep.
Like just take a card, push the air bubbles out.
Same, different, yeah.
It's awesome.
We have felt put on our,
So you don't tear it,
It looks really nice.
huh?
so it doesn't tear
Yeah,
and
it's less impactful to the vinyl.
nice.
So this is the water base.
This is the water-based sealer.
This is the silver. Let's see.
And here he comes.
We have a whole school for a 3-day school for teaching guys to put down the difficult vinyl. These, as you can see, is pretty simple. What's important here is that the sanding job is excellent and that the floor is immaculately clean. If you leave hairs under there, you're going to see it.
Yeah, if you leave it just a tiny hair, it looks like a worm. Because it transfers through the vinyl.
Pretty much like every sealer you put down, right?
Oh yeah. Couple of coats.
Couple of coats.
Couple of coats. I do it all my life.
Can you come back and move the furniture when you're done, please?
Actually, I did that
No, don't
once.
do it. Yeah, once.
Just because they were a really older couple, they needed help.
Yeah.
Because I don't move furniture. My insurance doesn't cover me.
No.
Not my back. Not if I break anything.
My father ran a trucking company, moving company for decades. And at the end, he came to work for me when I ran my flooring company. I loved it because people would call and say, are they going to come back and move the furniture? And he'd say, lady, I moved furniture for 30 years. We never went back and sanded everybody's floors, okay?
Nice.
Keep it going, Pops. Oh, that's lovely.
Se va a hacer la cota encima de eso.
Okay. While Mike's doing that, we're going to talk about catalyzing Phoenix. So, we are using a Zerodine as our cross-linker. This is not a hardener, this is a cross-linker. Okay? A Zerodine and isocyanate, which some of our competitors use, reach the same sort of durability, just that a Zerodine takes a little longer. So isocyanate gets to that full hardness in about 72 hours.
Right.
The Zerodine might be more like 4 or 5 days. But it gets to the same place.
Okay.
Same durability. Okay?
Chris, when people call and they talk about a finish that has a catalyst, it has an isocyanate, right? And when they say, oh, I got a hardener, it's the Zerodine.
Other way.
Other way.
The other,
So-
okay, yeah, because people will say, oh, I didn't add it at all, and you're supposed to harden it. Or they'll say, can I recatalyze? Well, is it a hardener or a catalyzer? So there is a difference. That is a catalyst.
There is a big difference.
Okay.
So one of the reasons that we've gone this way is because everybody complains about the waste, right? If you catalyze a gallon of our competitor's product, it's a solid block in 3 or 4 hours, right? With the Zerodine, you actually have 48-hour window to use this. Now, it's a little complicated, so when you first catalyze this, you have 8 hours of pot life, okay? If we go past the 8 hours, but we're within the 48, we can recatalyze
Under the can.
it in the same ratio.
Okay.
So we sell these separately, right? So, for example, today we do Mrs. Smith's kitchen,
Right.
and it's 300 square feet. We catalyze the whole container, okay? We know we're not going to use the whole container, but we catalyze it.
Right.
Now we can come back 6 hours later and use it as it is, recoat, or we come back the next day. If we come back the next day, we've passed the 8-hour window, but we're within 48 hours.
Right.
So now we recatalyze it again, and we have no waste.
So if I have 3/4 left, so I use 3/4 of that little thing,
Yes, correct.
same ratio.
Correct. Now what you also do with this is you add water to it.
Oh.
There is a line right here.
Oh, okay.
And it does say it on the instructions. You're going to add water to that line. Okay?
All right.
So, first thing I always recommend, I don't care whose products you use, I like to put a stir stick down the bottom
Right.
and just drag it down the bottom and make sure there's no sediment.
Okay.
If there is sediment, you need to stir it until there isn't.
Right.
Okay? So part A is properly mixed. Part B, as I just said, add water to the line, give it a bit of a shake. Now we're going to dump it in. Now we're going to mix up A and B together.
All right.
Now we're ready to go.
It can be a still, it can be shake.
You can stir it, you can shake it. So we always want you to leave this for 10 or 15 minutes. Let's say 15 minutes for those bubbles to die down.
Oh, I see. Okay, just
Okay.
leave it right there. Everything just like coated.
15 minutes.
That was
I
a
have
habanero.
taken one of these, and we're going to do this as soon as I start talking. We're going to shake the hell out of it.
All right.
I have stood there with one of these in Arkansas at our headquarters and shook it for minutes and minutes and minutes, longer than anybody would. I put as much air bubbles in there as I could. I then set a timer for 15 minutes, and right on 15 minutes I put it down, air bubbles had all dissipated.
Okay.
Okay, so that 15 minutes is important.
All right. All right. Keep.
So
Perfect.
have some water.
Perfect. Se le echa agua. Se chequea y hay que dejarlo quieto 15 minutos antes de echarlo para que se desaparezcan las burbujas, las burbujas. He notado que es cuando lo hacemos el catalítico, nosotros como ya, para evitar eso. That's good. It can be any water, tap water,
You
or
know,
you recommend.
I always use my bottled water just because some people's
More pure?
water you don't know about. So, you know, I'm a floor guy. We're all a bit anal and worried about things.
Yeah, because tap water can have some chemicals
It
like
can
Clorox or something. You know?
You're only using a little bit. I just use my own.
Okay, I see. All right, that's good to know.
So there's that line, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to pour water in. To the line. Now, helpful tip. If you're on a job that's really big or the conditions are tough, you can actually refill this catalyst bottle back to that line one time with more water, and it will give you a little bit of extra open time.
Oh, nice.
Okay?
All right.
That's just if you want to.
Is that a gallon?
So that's a gallon.
Liter?
That's a gallon and a quarter. All of our containers, the High Build and the Phoenix, are a gallon and a quarter. So if it's 500 square feet per gallon, it's 600 to 625 square feet per container. Okay, so some people feel that you get the extra quarter for free. So if we're retailing at 120 a container, that's more like $100 a gallon, right? And this one has been sitting around a little while, so there is some sediment down the bottom. If you were only to shake this, you're not going to get that sediment properly.
Oh, okay.
So people say to me, do you have to stir, do you have to shake? Like I said, I always advise putting the stir stick down the bottom first, figure out what you're dealing with.
Right.
If you put the stir stick down the bottom and you felt no sediment, well, even a couple of little shakes, you're good to go. If you put the stir stick down the bottom and you got 1.5 inches of gunk,
Yeah.
then you need to stir it up for a minute or two. Make sure it's all in.
You know what I did for years as a contractor and as a supplier is I would tell guys, I'm going to put this in your van upside down, tighten everything up, and go just drive to wherever you're going. Remember to flip them back over. I would check the lids, make sure nothing would pop off or whatever, especially on something like satin or it has flattening agents, etc. Let it kind of drop down, get to the bottom. Because you don't, like Chris is doing, you stir in the bottom, that's the way to do it, bring it up. You wouldn't want to shake too much because then it could take 10 minutes for the bubbles to break. It could take an hour. You start putting air bubbles in there, then you're going to get foaming.
Coat that
So
right.
just let it settle.
From the foaming, yes.
So yeah, to Steve's point, so you can see, when you turn that upside down, there's a little bit of sediment, right? If you give it a bit of a bang, or a little bit of a shake, sometimes you can actually watch that fall off
Right.
and come in, you know? So it's a clearish container, you can tell. But you want, that's important stuff. It's like when you're pouring a beer.
Good to know.
You want all the stuff that's in there to make it taste good, you know?
And what's the shelf life?
Shelf life is 1 year on water-based and 2 years on oil
Okay.
for GameTime. The first thing that goes is the defoaming agents.
Right.
All defoaming agents, as far as I'm aware, last about a year. After that, they start breaking down.
You can still use it as a base coat.
You can still use it as a
Temperature
base.
stability has a lot to do with that too. But yes, you could use it as a base coat on a natural.
Yeah.
Don't do it over stain, because if you get bubbles in it, you got to work the bubbles out, then you run a chance of breaking the stain.
Can that freeze dry?
One
Freeze
time.
thaw rather?
Freeze thaw, one time. We're working on making it 3 times. Right now it's once. So the way that you would know that is if you open it up and it looks like cottage cheese, it's no good. Okay?
We just had a job go bad this week, and the contractor called. It was another product, and I said, "Was it freeze thaw?" He looked at it and he goes, "Oh, yeah." He asked his son, "Where was this?" He goes, "It was in the van. I brought it in." Yeah, okay. Yeah, and by the way, it was -12. It's not like
Even
it's
these
30.
days, just have it in the van during the day.
I don't even, if it's water-based, I don't even let it go to the van. It goes home or to a barn or to the shop or leave it at a distributor.
Yep.
You know what I do is when I'm coming in the first day and bringing in all my equipment, I bring all my poly and sealers in then, and I have them somewhere so that it's just acclimating to the environment.
Yep.
Okay, so part A is stirred up, part B is mixed. You don't have to drizzle it in real slow, you can pretty much just get it in there. Personally, when I catalyze something, I always destroy the label a little bit,
Yeah?
right? I just give it a little pull. Some people put a bit of tape on it, something.
Something so you know
So
that
you
it's
know,
been
you know
mixed.
the clock's ticking.
That's right.
So you know, guys have got guys, and which one did you pick up?
What do you have an hour, 2 hours?
On ours,
Yeah,
8.
that's more than
So-
traffic, that's more than traffic, I think.
Right. So let's do that one again. So now that I've just catalyzed this, let's call it 12 noon right now. It's not, but let's pretend it is. Easy math. I've now got 8 hours. Till 8 o'clock tonight, this is good to go. If I go to 9 o'clock, it needs to be recatalyzed. Same ratio. So we sell the catalyst bottles separately, if you ever need them.
Oh, so
Same.
that's not gonna harden up.
No.
This is not gonna
No,
harden
that's
up.
the difference between a Zerodine and the isocyanates like Loba and Bowman and the other companies.
But in 48 hours, it probably will, right?
Right. It's not hard, no.
It's not a solid block like ISO.
Okay.
But what happens is if you use it too many times, or you go beyond that 48 hours, what happens is when you put the catalyst in it, it has, because it's been catalyzed once before, it has kind of an adverse reaction.
Yep.
And it may look fine when it goes on the floor, but the next time you work with it, it's going to look like mud cracks, almost like, you know, like if you have just a big puddle of mud that just gets baked by the sun for days.
Yep.
How it just kind of, the moisture comes out and it goes,
Yep.
same effect.
So what we always did with our finish was take a Sharpie and mark, they already have it gradiated in quarters, mark them. And then I would always go right between those, put a mark, and then right between those and put a mark. So if I wanted to use 1/8 of it, we'd do the same thing with the catalyst or the hardener. Cut it, mark it into eighths, put it in another bucket, so I don't have to worry about the 8 hours and the dry time and the pot
Well,
life.
we're going to create a bottle, kind of like some of the other
Oh, yeah,
companies
okay.
have done, like, you know, a graduated touch-up bottle, call it whatever you want, so that if you need to do a small repair on a job, it'll have 3 gradients on it, because we have gradient A is going to be the finish, gradient B would be the catalyst, gradient C would be top it with water. So that way you can mix up a small amount.
Got it.
Also, as we said, you can put down Phoenix uncatalyzed. If for whatever reason you wanted to do mid-coats, you can put it down uncatalyzed for a mid-coat and then catalyze your top coat. But you want to make sure that your top coat is always catalyzed. Okay? If it's not, you're not going to get the properties that we expect. Okay? Just go over all of it. So this section where we have 1 coat of oil sealer, we can leave this so that you guys can put some oil down, or we can just put water over the whole thing.
Just put water over this whole panel.
And what's patented is it the finish or is it
The process.
Combination of the two.
It's the whole process is patented.
Okay.
Yeah, because you can't process zero-dean crosslink polyurethane because it's been done forever. Right? And they've been making a zero-dean crosslink finishes water-based since the late 80s. The vinyl itself is being used all over the world, but what's the patent is the process to get you to it. So we have developed a finish that works on our vinyl, but you can't patent the finish. You can only patent the process.
will it work on any vinyl? Like any
No.
No.
You've
It has to be yours.
I mean, we've tested everything from the vinyl
Yeah.
to the inks we use
Yeah.
and everything in between.
Okay.
And in fact, it even depends upon how we cure the ink when it's coming out of the printer. So there's a lot of variants that are involved there to make sure everything works.
Hey Ryan, we covered it on the podcast last night. Like I did gyms for years, and then we used to say, well, why can't you just put a sticker down or put some vinyl down and then we'll coat it, because it would peel every time. I once did an entire center court, and you could take the poly, peel it up in a 6-foot shape of what it was supposed to be over the vinyl. But when we first went out to Vegas and we met with them, and they said, who was your head chemist? Bob Czar?
No, Bob's the owner.
But they designed the system where, for the first time ever, they could take a wrap, like you'd see on vehicles, with their chemistry and coat over it. This changes everything, because still there's no one out there I know of that you could do that right now, just them. So this means you could put in a quick pickleball court just by putting lines. You could put in something elaborate like this, photos of your kids, anything, advertising, marketing. However, you can only put GameTime, and they have the copyrights and the patents to it. So for even a big company like some of the other ones out there to come out and say, yes, you can use ours over there, I wouldn't try it. It'd be a tricky thing.
Yeah, I believe that some people have used other people's products. There was one product that worked from a competitor, and then it stopped working.
Yeah.
We don't know why. We don't test other people's
Do you want a
products.
57,000 foot problem? No, you don't. No.
No, you don't.
In fact, that logo wasn't that around when it was the Boston Patriots all those 15 years ago?
No, 1950 something. Yeah.
That logo's been around forever.
Remember, they were the Boston.
That's, I mean, well, they had that when they went to the newer, flashier one.
Oh, no, but that's the
That's
original.
the original logo.
At the Patriots.
So I always recommend strain and finish.
Yeah.
I have had people comment and say sometimes, geez, do you guys strain the finish? We always strain everything as it comes out and it's going into containers. But what happens is there's this little bit of airspace, right?
Yeah.
So this is sitting in your truck and it moves and it comes up and then it goes down and there's a bit of air in there and it gets to crosslink a little bit, right? So now it starts to dry. Then you go around another corner and it picks up that dry and puts it back in.
Right.
So you get stuff sometimes.
So this container doesn't have the little
The
plastic.
little thing, we are talking about doing that.
Like the other
We did that with our old company, and plastic expands and contracts
Yes.
with temperature. So sometimes you couldn't get them out, other times they would fall out. It would drive everybody nuts.
Right.
So
Depending on the climate.
depending on the climate. So we're working on a system for that.
Okay.
Right now, what I don't particularly like these, but you know the paint conical strainer ones that they
Yeah.
have. I used to buy them in a sleeve.
Yeah.
For, you know, you get 200 for $10 or something. That's easy just to strain straight in my pocket.
So
But you know what else works really good?
Mm.
Is you can take that strainer right there
Uh-huh.
and cut it into a bunch of squares about that big, and you lay it over the top of that spout once you
Take it.
pull the lid off, and put a rubber band on it,
All right. Yeah. That's easy. So just pour it from there.
and pour it right through there.
Perfect.
Just get the band on top so you can move something.
Yeah. For real. Especially on the stairs.
While we're waiting for this, why don't we put a bit of oil down?
Yeah.
And your oil goes over that too.
Oh yeah. If you're going to put oil over the vinyl, then we have another product that we put down as a bond between, a barrier coat. But our water base goes straight on.
You could put the water on and then put the oil on top of the water too, right?
Right, yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah, you
the next
can-
day, yeah.
You could put high build over this and then oil it the next day.
So that, I mean, if you wanted to have a coat of oil on this, just because, just know two things. One, even one coat of oil, over time, you're gonna start ambering all the white in your logo. So, I mean, just as long as you understand that, that's
Do you
fine.
use a pigmented sealer or like your, what?
We could put our normal high build over it, and it doesn't have enough color to it, and it never ambers, so.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is
Dry?
what you're coming out with the.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever it is.
I would not put a pigmented
No, right.
sealer on top of the logo, because if it's an ambered sealer,
Yeah.
it's gonna immediately put amber on top of it, because that's pigment.
So that color will affect the
It
decal.
absolutely will. That's why we always
That's
typically,
interesting.
oh yeah, it's on top.
So you've got to stay.
Whatever's on top is the
This
final
side.
color you see, so,
Oh, here.
you know, granted, our
So you
oil-based
can do this one
polyurethane
and
is
this
pretty
one if
clear,
you wouldn't mind.
and it's not gonna have a huge impact right away on this.
So this is oil base.
Leave it here and let this window hit it for 6 months, and it starts to amber out a little bit, then you would start seeing the color change.
Interesting.
That's just because
Fácil.
the inks may not be photosensitive.
Okay.
Urethane's on.
Para eso es.
So,
So,
do you want to start talking about Omega and Alpha?
Okay, let's take this.
Yeah,
We're putting Alpha down right now.
yeah, we're putting down the Alpha Poly, which is our premium. It's probably one of the most durable oils on the market.
Primero mojarlo.
We wanted to have competitive products and price point. One of the things you'll notice is right out of the can, it's got kind of a purplish color to it.
notice that.
That is cobalt. That is the principal dryer that's in there. It has Cobalt has a distinctive purple color that as soon as it's dry, it's clear. It's not going to leave the floor purple. And Cobalt is probably one of the most expensive dryers you can buy, but it's also the most consistently performing one too. So, you know, the one thing I don't ever want to have customers calling up saying, "Oh, I put this coat of polyurethane down. Here's all the job site conditions, and it just didn't dry." You know, so a product like the Alpha and the Omega, because we use the Cobalt dryers, they're more likely not to give you problems if say you're doing a cabin up north and it doesn't have HVAC. No, it's not air conditioned. It might have heat. Maybe it's a potbelly stove. But
You see like kind of a line?
you know, the air conditioning there is open windows. So it's subject to whatever's outside. So if it's just spent 3 days raining and you're trying to
Now
pull
even
finish,
that out from here.
most oils are not going to dry well. This will dry better than this.
Como quieras.
From this one. Pretend there's a wall there.
Básicamente vas a levantar esto por ahí. Something like that, yeah?
Yep,
There you go.
perfect. Feathering and air.
Smooth. There you go.
Another 50 cents of raise, very good.
Except you missed a spot.
Yeah. Pero vas a seguir ahí como quieras.
That's all right, now you can go up to the next one. Jonathan, you want to pour a little trolley
Sure,
from?
of course.
Thank you.
We're going to stop at this panel though.
Yep.
This is all getting watered.
It's not that strong. Not like those 5-gallon buckets. It's really strong. Está papa. That's enough.
What sheen is that?
Satin. It's all shiny till it's dry.
Yes, it's down behind the counter there.
You have a hard one.
Hacer eso así, mira. Se da cuenta que eso es una pared. Una pared. Pones acá. Lo traes. Lo levantas. Boom.
That goes down nice, Jonathan, huh?
It looks really nice. It looks really nice though.
Yeah. Nice glide and flow and leveling, you know?
It is easy to manage.
Yes.
I like it.
You want to give it a shot? Put some on? In the middle? Can you use the middle panel?
Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
you can just use the middle of this panel
Yep.
and put oil on it. Grab the
Yep, Daniel wants to learn putting coats down. This is it.
Watch it. Don't if you hold it like that, it's going to drip on you. There you go. Nothing like going home with stinky plastic on
His mother will appreciate that.
Send them home with stinky plastic on their clothes. All the years I coated floors, I knew I was done wearing a pair of pants when I couldn't get my hands in the pockets
Yeah, right.
anymore. Because you pick up the dirt out of the junk out of the finish, and you always wipe it inside your pocket.
Yep.
As soon as your hands don't fit in the pocket anymore, you throw them away.
Okay, so remember my 2x3 thing?
Yes, sir.
First thing you need to do is get the poly on, okay? So you've got a nice wet applicator now. So, you see how you dry that? Right here? Try and just get everything evenly coated up to about here. And you're gonna find out that you have too much poly.
Yeah. Well, you see, we could make you a
Okay, now it's
3 foot
on.
round, 8 foot round, 6 foot round,
I
whatever.
want you to
Big
touch
nautical
the
compass
floor.
that looks like 5 different
So I don't
species of
want this
hardwood
down here.
with grain in it
Going,
and everything.
is that on?
And you could stick that on a floor
It's
and then you coat it
Because
in.
all you're doing, you can even see you're starting to make bubbles, right?
My
So
shoulder.
all it really needs, I kind of do a double, like that.
But you know
right?
what
Now, my poly is on.
the Jones
But
family. Watch that.
I've
Watch
got
that.
heavy
There you
areas,
go.
and I've got ridges and things, right?
Yes, sir.
So this is when I'm gonna feather an airplane.
You get you know,
Make sure now
the Smith
everything's
family has
pulled straight.
a 12-year-old boy,
Okay,
right?
if
He
we
loves the
pretend
hats.
this is a wall,
Right.
and
There
we
you go.
can't stand
You
here,
sand and finish
then
the
you can
floors.
go that
Hat
way,
the Patriot goes on the bedroom
and
floor.
then you can come back into it.
And
How this
oil
one
base is a lot more forgiving than
Celtics.
A
water.
lot more, yes. It's
Oh,
got
yeah, look at
extra
that. There's a
open
big
time.
compass there.
What is
When it was
open
down the
time?
hallway on the entrance.
Open time is how
I'm
long
gonna
it
send
stays
this
wet.
idea to the owner and see what
Right?
he said about it.
So the open time of, so now you're just gonna use this.
How big
button
is
and
that?
do the same
Doesn't
on that
set up as
compass.
fast.
It doesn't set up
Trying to
as
see
fast.
it's.
It depends on conditions, again, environmental conditions, we've been talking about it all morning.
I'm guessing it's.
Water-based generally has about a 12-minute open time. That should be plenty of time for you to get from the top of the kitchen
Anyway,
to the bottom.
It just depends. That'll
Right.
determine how many
With oil,
pieces it is.
You've
It's gonna be like
double.
probably double of these are coming there.
So,
Well, that's easy if it's.
You don't get the lap.
And we can do it
we've got
in
to
one
talk, as soon as we've
piece.
got all this down, we're going
As
to talk
long as
about,
it's
we're
under,
going to wrap that
under
back up with
50,
the lap marks and everything
52
like that.
inches.
I see, down the one sheet.
Yeah,
Let's
one
keep
sheet.
going.
Because
Let's do the
if
rest of
it's
this
bigger than that, then it has to. It's
So-
How do you have?
yeah, then we split it.
Lap marks can happen for a bunch of different
And
reasons.
then we make this. We use this stuff on the big logos on the high-end jobs called knifeless tape.
One of them
So what you do
is that you didn't
stick
put the
first
poly
layer
down
of the
at the
logo
right
down,
recommended
right?
spread rate.
And then
If you
the
put it
knifeless
down
tape on.
super thin,
And then lay
if you
the
put it
second
down too
piece of
heavy,
logo
it's
so
up
it
to
overlaps.
you can see lap marks, okay?
Right?
Because either you've got
And then you pull
extra
the
finish,
knifeless tape and that's
or
perfect.
if it's too
That's a perfect scene
thin,
and
it's
everything
going to dry
comes
too
together.
fast. It's not going to have the time it should get to just settle and flow out. There you go, you can keep going down to the bottom of this panel.
I like the way they look. Look nice and clean.
Okay. Try and stay in those lines if you can, with the tape.
So that stuff in the
It's a bit of a pain when you can't
that
walk.
was a solution.
What's that?
The one that the mat that I clean the floors with. That
Oh
was-
yeah, on the mop. That's. I just had it. I moved it. Here. That's our. This
Okay,
is our
beautiful.
daily-
Now, you see that little mess up, if you will? Come over here, Daniel, please. If you stand right where I am there, you can kind of see a heavy ridge
So yeah,
and a heavy
some of them
ridge,
are citrus
right?
smelling,
Now,
some of
truth
them
is,
smell
that'll
like
probably all
alcohol.
settle out and flow out. But for the sake of this, we're gonna say, we don't like that, or in fact,
Honestly, all you need is.
you don't wanna leave that.
You know, this is
So
a nice
feather
thing
that.
about this, it's got a little bit of alcohol in it, so it's
good.
Push it easier.
Right.
So if you're gonna tap the floor,
Uh-huh.
get a 5-gallon
So
bucket
try
or
and
whatever. to
stay
keep your-
straight with the grain.
tap
And I know it's
it.
difficult when you can't walk on the
Mostly
floor.
water and just dump a little bit of this in just to give it.
And
a
remember
little
your
grease.
airplane.
Yeah, well, it's not really grease, but it just makes it feel a little bit slippery and easier to push.
Nice.
Like
When you set that down, make
Just
sure
like
you're
that.
setting it down as
Now,
flat as
what I'd like you to
can.
do now is walk around and look at this and tell me if you're happy with it or not. Do you have any misses? Do you have any areas that you'd be worried about?
Maybe a little bit right along the tape right there.
Yes, exactly. If you stand right here, you've got misses there.
Right.
You can see it's at what, half an inch
Yes, sir.
along that tape line.
Well, you're also, just for the record, flicking it back here.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
You want to give that panel a push or a pull?
that's not good.
I did that once in Boston over furniture. That was a problem.
They didn't want their couch
No, I was
urethane,
pretty.
extra protection.
It was in the kitchen on the appliances now, the fridge and the dishwasher.
So I come from an old school, like Italian family, my
That's
mother's
great,
side was
that's good.
Italian.
Yeah.
Alright.
They have plastic on all the furniture, they have
Oh, I see.
plastic.
I see.
So
Get rid
if
of
you
that,
did it in
thank
their house, it
you.
wouldn't matter, it's already covered in plastic.
Right.
Everything was, Jonathan, everything was plastic and like 7 layers of like Afghans and blankets on the back of the
Nice.
chair back. So you'd sit and it'd feel like an avalanche coming down your back.
I love that plastic in summertime and shorts.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. All that old school stuff.
You weren't comfortable unless you got second-degree burns on the back seat.
That's it.
¿Cómo? Luego se aplicó
Nice work.
aceite.
Thank you.
Feel comfortable?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It was really nice.
say not yet, but it's coming, right? And it's only done it once.
It looks nice. It looks nice.
The more you do it, it's just like bowling or riding a bike or anything else. The more times you do it, it's just kind of a muscle memory thing. You get more comfortable each little bit.
Yep.
I even dance salsa with the buffer now.
Say that again.
I dance with the buffer now. One hand dancing.
Just give it a rock.
Yeah. It's all about practice. I even dance with the buffer.
You do?
Yeah.
Because you're Latin American, so
Hey.
you're doing the salsa thing,
Hey.
huh?
I might be in the next halftime show next year.
There you go. Or on Come
Controversy.
Dancing or whatever they call it.
Maybe you'll be at the Super Bowl halftime show with a buffer.
Well, yeah.
You know what? There was a video somewhere online recently of, I think it's a gym job. It's a gym job. There's a guy on a rider, and then there's the two guys behind him that are carrying the cord, and they're dancing and flirting around and just having fun at work. You know?
Why not?
Why not?
Doesn't have to be boring.
Absolutely. I had a few employees that were excellent, and we had so much fun on the jobs. It was great.
So is that to get the lint
Everybody
off?
get on well, and just having a laugh, and the days go fast.
Doesn't pull the fibers off?
See, on a cheap one, it can.
And the Home Depot ones. Well,
You ever throw the lambswolves in the dryer?
no,
No?
it works.
I don't know, that's what they used to do. You ever do that?
No. I used to have a, if I was coating on, if I had a bunch of jobs lining up and I was coating every day, back in the day, we you know, before we started rolling our T-barn, we used lambswolls, right?
Yeah.
So a 10-inch lamb's wool
10
fits
inch.
perfectly inside
And
a
the, that's
5-gallon
why
bucket.
that's why everybody.
So I
Yeah.
had my final coat bucket, and the
Yeah.
lambs wool stayed in the finish all the time.
Yeah.
Just screw my broom handle into it, go to work.
So we only sell really 10-inch or 18-inch, and I think they put the 18-inch in the nap saver.
Yeah. Yeah, and now even with T-bars, what I've done, I've taken to do, and I've taught guys this, is if you're a T-bar guy or an 18-inch roller guy, is go get a piece of PVC pipe, right? And get a cap for one end that you can epoxy permanently in place, and then the other end, you put a screw cap on. So you can cut it to fit your 18-inch roller, and you can take a piece of wood dowel,
Yep.
and before you seal the one end, you put a piece of wood dowel in about that long, and then you have the wood dowel on the plastic screw cap so that you can take your 18-inch roller and set it right down on the wood dowel down inside of there, and it'll suspend the roller in the PVC pipe.
So it's not sitting on the inside of the pipe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, it's good for oil, right? Don't do it with water base, because water base has to be 100% wet 100% of the time. And if you make the mistake of taking something that you're using for sealer, and then you end up putting a crosslink product on it, you'll cause a chemical reaction you don't want to see, right in the middle of your floor. So, yeah, I am on the water-based side of things. I would tell you never, ever, ever, ever reuse an applicator. Maybe job to job, like if you're doing a coat at 8 in the morning.
Seems like they have a hard time getting it so cleared off where it doesn't
Right.
harden up. It get
Right.
crusty.
If you're going to do a coat at 8 in the morning and and you know you're coming back at 12:30, and you're going to put another coat on it, man, just take a brand new plastic trash bag, dump your applicator in there, and twist it up around here, and secure it so that there's no air in there. And you come back in 4 hours, this applicator's still wet with the finish,
Yeah.
and you'll be okay. But if it's a crosslink product, like, you know, an ISO hardened product, you don't want to do that, because it's it cures in the roller. So you need a brand new applicator.
Yeah. Don't risk the money for sake of an applicator.
No. You know,
Have
it's like we talked about earlier. What's, you know,
Pound foolish and penny wise.
penny wise, dollar foolish.
Yeah.
You know, buy an extra $17 applicator pad.
Yeah.
Just use it, because at $17 is a lot less money than
holds
recoating
it- holds it.
1,500 square feet, or worse yet, resanding.
So we just strained the Phoenix, our 2-component water base, and you can see there's really nothing in there,
Right, it's clean.
right? But I still recommend straining.
Better safe than sorry.
Better safe than sorry. Maybe sometimes helps you stop picking stuff out as you code it. Okay.
I want a T-bar.
Okay.
I just cleaned this. I want a T-bar. There's Pat right behind me.
Which one do you want? Okay. Two. You can tell Mike's a gym guy because he likes T-bone.
Right, right.
I tell you what, 8 out of 10 house jobs I would do, unless it involved the kitchen,
Yeah.
I would T-bar those too.
Yeah.
I would.
I mean, it's a skill.
It is. It's more of a skill than rolling. But it's not that hard.
And the beautiful thing is, you see how this particular brand, the Duratools, it's a tapered edge,
Yeah.
so I can run that literally right up against the trim.
Nice. No brush.
Only doors. Oh man,
What's the retail cost of something like the Patriot logo?
what's that?
This one, this
Yeah,
size.
let's say he got a customer who's
13
wanted-
bucks a square, or I'm sorry, 14 bucks a square foot. So whatever, you just measure the
Yeah, that's
rectangle
not
that it
28
comes out of, multiply by $14 a square foot. So if it's 12 inches by 12 inches, that's 1 square foot, that logo costs you 14 bucks. If you do one that's, 3 foot by 3 foot, that's 9 square feet. So it's
I mean, that,
9 times 14.
116
you
bucks.
could see somebody like having a game room or something like that, and,
Oh yeah, the 11-year-old's bedroom.
yeah.
Kid's a huge Pats fan.
But you could mock that up pretty good, I mean,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh
They,
yeah.
they don't have any idea what the cost of that is.
You're not.
You're just quoting the job.
Well, you tell people, you're not paying me for my time. You're paying me for my knowledge.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's right.
That's
I mean,
pretty cool.
I could see easily, like you saying, okay, that'd be $500.
Oh yeah, easy.
I'll do one in my son's room, Super Mario.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna do marketing on that.
Mark it up to your son.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's gonna say, my daddy did this, love it. Call me for a quote. But that's a good idea, though.
I mean,
Really good idea.
I wish I can't find a broom handle that'll fit in here. This is an old Padco T-bar. The Duratool ones have a real short end on them.
I just take that thing off. Paper. We take it. Let's go get that.
Yeah. Chris will yell at me. Nothing better than just be yelled at.
I start?
You chance that one?
I was about to start taping. That'll work. Huh? Yeah, put it in and tape it.
So I'm gonna open it.
No, it's the same head. That's a Duratool team here. Put that up here.
What's the name? Okay. Vamos ahora a echarle confíos. Puro chalino ahorita de cara.
Alright, boss, all yours.
Mira, si primeramente los negocios van bien, nos compramos uno.
There's blue tape stuck to the floor. Yeah, that'll come
Vamos a
off.
las casas así, están vacías.
The urethane got to it.
Ay, hay métodos de que la pague la mesa, el compresor, ya.
Vámonos.
Hold on, since you're gonna be that picky.
Apart from a nice sharp scraper.
Here.
So all the wood come into this place and from here to Hopedale?
No, it's just,
Good enough.
you know, we have trucks that come in here.
I'm standing up here in the park.
So this is another branch?
Yeah, it's just another branch.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
We sell all their material.
Oh, yeah.
Like, my drivers will be going down there tomorrow to get material for a few deliveries next week.
Nice.
Pour me a line? I don't pour. I'm the boss.
Yeah.
You left-handed?
I don't care. Wherever you pour the line, I'm gonna work from. Just like with a roller, you wanna make sure your applicator is always wet. And I'm just moving my puddle a little bit closer to the edge. Excuse me. You're right where I wanna be. You see, I got a little bit of a dry edge, so you can, if you can always just roll back to it, or you're not rolling, literally, you're walking back to it. And taking care of your dry edge. And then it's just a simple matter. I'm not gripping. Just you're always holding it at a slight angle, kind of like when you talk about your angle that you're traversing the floor when you sand with a big machine. Snowplow effect, right? So you pull your T-bar at a slight angle, so it's always moving the wet edge at your feet. You want to keep your handle loose enough that you can adjust as you move, and you just tap it out, and it gets the heaviness off the wet edge. Unlike a roller, you never, ever, ever pull it across the grain and leave it. You always straighten it out. Get some excess here. Dry holiday out here.
Oh yeah.
And that's it.
A little dry just on the edge of that board.
Oh yeah, right here. You know what it is? That's what a tape was.
Oh yeah.
It's tape residue. It's having a little bit of action.
Yeah, that sounded obviously. So you see where we're a little heavy right here?
Yep.
That will flow out.
That'll all flow out.
You see this line here? That will flow out.
Yes.
You know?
I was about to ask about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to leave it there. Because I could check it later.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a big heavy lump of poly up the top there that I know will flow out as well.
It'd be cool if you could set up like an iPad or something at and have people put whatever logo or ideas or whatever it is, and like a Roomville type of thing, only like impose the logo on it. I think the best way to get people to understand what they're, you know?
Oh, it's really easy. You could just open up the Word file, put a photo of whatever you want, and then I just did this for Mike Delaney. He's gonna put 3 of the sports logos from Boston in his game room, and that's how we all met and got together on it. So he's gonna put Bruins, Celtics, Red Sox right in this big game room, real simple, on a maple floor. I took them, put them into a photo of a maple floor, threw them on there. You can use AI and do it too. You'll know exactly what it looks like.
Okay, it is 2:01. So we went 1 minute long, but I tell you what, we got through a lot of information there, right?
Oh yeah, it's good.
Really good.
You know, when you're looking at some of these, we used to call holidays and these spots that used to scare the crap out of us. Like when I used to do street shoe, first time I went to a lab to work with a chemist, he goes, street shoe guy. I go, how do you do? He goes, because you breathe 3 times and then you rinse with the applicator. When they got into nanotechnology and the smaller components, it's really simple. It's like this. The old polys were like looking at a steel bucket full of tennis balls. If you looked at the particles in a finish under a microscope, they looked like big spongy tennis balls. After that, they were able to make the catalyzed products. If you looked at them under a microscope, same bucket, but like it was like golf balls.
Right. Wow.
Today's nanotechnology, the reason it flows out, it looks like a bucket of ball bearings. So under a microscope, not only that, but the agents that they're using pull it really tight, like tightening the head on a snare drum. So while this stuff is down, that chemistry is pulling at itself and tightening it and pulling it and leveling it. That's why it's so much easier to work with these products today. Here's another thing they've done is, the industry got tired of saying, well, I have street shoe, I can do 1,200 feet.
Yeah, it isn't dry.
Or I can use this other product and I'm only getting 400 feet. The problem was in Europe, they were rolling, in places we're using rollers and T-bars. The industry went back and said, chemists, please, can we make all this stuff flow at, let's, a number? And they said, well, about 500, 450 to 600 feet. That way, all these new guys spending $160 for a finish, it's not working like they're used to, and you're getting holidays and laps. Today, you should be able to use, let's say, a 9/16 roller on any product made, and it should just about flow out. Then you can adjust from there what you think you want to use for that. But look at any of these things, 450 to 500. They finally made the chemistry where you can leave a good film on and walk away. This stuff is going to be beautiful on the back.
Now, keep it, yeah, that'll be fun.
Oh, leave it. Yeah.
Now keep, remember we talked about never using and always changing your applicators up from sealer to finish? Yep. Well, this is a good learning point right here. If you step back in here into this light, you can see here where we just put that high build sealer down right here. An hour ago, maybe 45 minutes ago, and it's having a little bit of a reaction. With the cross-link finish because they don't like each other.
Right.
So Chris will come back here tomorrow and put a fresh coat on this and make it all look beautiful so that you got something to show to people.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everybody. Fantastic. Looks sharp. I really like that.